Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics, and in this video, sorry, we're carrying on with the Dominic Cummings story. But what I want to do is focus on some of the tricks that those who want to support, not so much Dominic Cummings, but the government, and therefore by extension Dominic Cummings, are trying to use in order to smudge the issue, in order to fudge it, because they know they're losing the battle in terms of the public mood. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So there are three main strands to the arguments. We're mostly looking at comments that appeared on my videos from the last couple of days. One of which is again trying to smudge over the notion that he broke the law, which is, there's a particularly ridiculous argument that someone put on a comment that I'm going to go through. Second is trying to go, oh, but other people broke the rules, so it's all right for Dominic Cummings. And the third one is trying to make it a Brexit issue. So the first one, this was absolutely classic. I had someone basically saying, oh yeah, you know, there's exceptions given in the regulations. Yes, there are, a small number. It says, but it was not exhaustive. I mean, if it was an exhaustive list of exceptions, the legislation would say so. It's like, I mean, up until I'd read that comment, I thought that what Cummings said yesterday was pretty dumb. But this one takes the biscuit. I'm going to try. You should try this. Maybe someone who, or maybe some barristers need to get in on this. You know, they've got a client who's accused of murder and they stand up in court and the evidence is really overwhelming. They go, yes, Your Honour, I understand that, that, you know, I killed this person, but I'm pretty sure there's an exception for people called Ben Smith. I know it's not in the legislation, but the legislation doesn't say it's an exhaustive list of exceptions, does it? So I'm pretty sure that's an exception. Could you imagine it? Absolutely ridiculous. No, the legislation is clear. It says what the exceptions are. None of the exceptions apply to Dominic Cummings. End of. And as many people have been pointing out, and I didn't clock this myself, but as a lot of people have been pointing out in the comments, and I've also seen on Twitter and in the news as well, by his own admission yesterday, he didn't just admit to breaches of the law regarding the coronavirus regulations, but he admitted to a breach of the law under the Road Traffic Act. In other words, when he believed his eyes were impaired, he went for a drive. That is also a serious crime. So, yeah, no, you're not buying the didn't break the law thing. The second thing they're trying to do is bring it on to Brexit. So what's been tried now, they know it's not worked. If you look in the papers today, I talked about this earlier on today, the headlines are actually worse than they were yesterday. And even if they weren't, if it's about the same, they're not going anywhere. And as people point out, there are certain political realities that Boris Johnson just tries to ignore all the time. There are some that he's just not going to be able to. And one of them goes like this. If the Guardian and the Daily Mail agree, someone said this in Tony Blair's time, if the Guardian and the Daily Mail agree about a thing, you ain't going to fight against it. And the Guardian and the Daily Mail are both scathing about this situation for their own different reasons. You know, all newspapers are biased. I am biased. I got it in the title. I don't hide the fact. Everyone has a particular bias. But we also have to remember that when you talk about an independent person such as myself, my bias is informed by my experiences and how I view the world, and it can change. And newspapers doesn't ever, because it's you know, you won't work for that paper unless your bias is in alignment with their stated bias. It has to match their readers and their owners. And the Guardian and the Daily Mail are, you know, pretty, well, almost polar opposites. I mean, the Guardian's, you know, not the most left-wing paper you could find, but it is certainly definitely on the left and very pro-Labour. The Daily Mail is definitely on the far right and very pro-conservative. And yeah, so when they agree on something, forget it. But so what people are trying to do is they're thinking, right, this hasn't worked. It hasn't worked. We need to try and turn this back into what they know divides the country, Brexit. So they're trying to say that now, it's the emperor's new clothes, basically. They're trying to say with the Dominic Cummings thing, the people attacking him are Remainers. The implication being, if you're a Brexit supporter, you're actually supporting a Remain position. It's like I used to say about Brexit with when Corbyn was in charge of Labour. All these people on the left that were suddenly in favour of leaving the EU. It's like, you're only saying that because Corbyn says that, but at the same time, you're going along with a Tory idea, a right-wing idea. They're trying the same thing here. They're trying to say, look, if you are attacking Cummings, you're falling for the lies put forward by the Remainers, the ones who want to stop Brexit. They're because he's so prominent in the Brexit campaign, he sort of ran the one of the Vote Leave, well, one that was called Vote Leave campaign. And they're trying to say, you know, by getting rid of Cummings, they're trying to stop Brexit. Brexit no longer has anything to do with Cummings. No longer to do with it. But where this is going to fall flat is that there are a number of Conservative MPs who, including a member of the government who's now resigned over this, who have publicly called for Dominic Cummings to be sacked. Amongst them are Steve Baker and Peter Bone. Now, they're not necessarily household names unless you pay attention carefully to British politics, but they are very, very, very influential Brexiteers within the Conservatives. In fact, those people may not be household names, but they did as much as anyone else to deliver Brexit because they were the people who were pushing for the referendum in the first place in Parliament. These are the people who have been pushing for this for decades. And they have been publicly calling for Cummings to go. So you're going to struggle. It's not impossible, but they're going to struggle to make it a Brexit issue because you have prominent Brexiteers that want Cummings gone. So that's a tricky one to argue. But I'm not saying it's impossible to work because, like I say, this is trying to work on the public, not on MPs as such. Now, the other thing, talking about MPs, I will just have to update. So I got an email response from my MP, quicker than I might have expected, I have to say. Now, my MP is a Conservative MP. She's only just become the MP for Scunthorpe, which has always been Labour. It's one of those disasters of the last general election. Now, I didn't write to her to ask what she was going to do about the Cummings situation. I don't think it's fair to ask a backbench MP, much less an inexperienced one. I simply asked for her position on it. I just said, look, what is your position on it? I'm going to read out the response. As far as I'm concerned, this is fair enough. It says, thank you for your email. I will try to be clear on my position. Like most people, I haven't broken the lockdown rules despite the fact that I come from a close family, many of whom live close to me in North Lincs. I would love to see my 90-year-old granddad or my little nephew, and so I understand and frankly share the upset and disappointment that people feel at what Dominic Cummings did, especially those that make personal sacrifices every day to do their best to keep within the rules. I have made clear to the government my view that Mr Cummings's behaviour was damaging and is a distraction at this time, and that many of my constituents, such as yourself, are extremely unhappy about what he did. So, I mean, that's fair enough. I think that's fine. I'm trying to find my thing. I'm not going to have any issue with that. That position is clear. It's not to try to be fudged. I wondered if she would try and fudge it. She hasn't done. And I think that's all anyone can ask of their MP. And I would strongly urge people to write to their MP in a way, because I deliberately wrote the question in a way that you couldn't fudge it without me having to come back and go, no, that's not why I asked. Because you can't ask them to do anything about it. You can try, but why would you? Just ask what their position is. That's all you need. What is their publicly stated position on it? Then the final thing that they're trying and again muddy the waters over this, and this is actually potentially the more damaging aspect of it. So, and I've had a number of comments about this, and they're all going, oh, what about these Labour MPs who broke the lockdown rules? Should they be sacked? Now, there's two aspects to that. First of all, I'm going to state what my position has been on MPs breaking lockdown rules. Now, I did comment on a Tory MP who appeared to break lockdown rules, Jenrick, some time ago, and he's a member of the government, not an opposition MP, a member of the government. And my position at the time, and I stated in a video, was his stated reason for doing so was to deliver food to his elderly parents. That is something that is permitted in the lockdown legislation. And I said, if that is the reason, fair enough. I did say, of course, it could be a lie. He could have just been saying that. But if that was the reason, I said at the time, and that is my position. Now, There are some Labour MPs. There were two that I knew about. So one Labour MP who went to visit his parents for his dad's birthday or something, and he drove a long way to do it. Now, he didn't go into their house. He sat pretty much on the street. It's right where their gate was, several metres away from them. That doesn't make it all right. However, that is not a breach of the law. We have to be very clear here. Dominic Cummings broke the law. That's what mostly this is about. Did this Labour MP, am I defending him saying what he did was okay? It wasn't okay. It certainly wasn't in the spirit of the lockdown rules, but you have to remember the government themselves were saying you can travel any distance for exercise. Take Dominic Cummings' visit to Barnard Castle, for example. If he was going to try and suggest that he and his family were all fit and well, and that was his daily exercise, that would have been fine. It wouldn't have been fine morally, but it would have been fine within the rules. But he didn't. He said he was ill. And for that reason, he shouldn't have gone out at all. That's the key distinction here. There was another Labour MP that attended a funeral, and there were, you can attend funerals, but there was supposed to be like a limit of 10 people or something, and I think there were more than that. That's breaking the rules. That's pretty clear. The Labour MP went to visit his parents. Dodgy. Certainly not in the spirit of the rules. Shouldn't have done it. I condemn that. But it's nothing. It didn't break the law. The Labour MP who attended the funerals, that's dodgier. That is dodgier. And the police did get involved in that one as well. Then there were a couple of others, two of which were people were posting things that were not proof. Then someone did actually post proof of what appears to be a Labour MP that attended a community event. Now, the whole council should be in trouble over this because it was in a council building, a community building where there were a lot of people in there. And it was reported in... They tried to show me a link to the Guido Fawkes site. That didn't provide any proof at all. Then they, from the Northern Echo, which did provide... I would trust the Northern Echo to have done its due diligence. So I accept that one, and I say that Labour MP also acted poorly. Now, the problem is that a lot of people are using these examples of Labour MPs to suggest that Dominic Cummings should get away with it. Why don't you sack these Labour MPs? Two sides to that. One, no. Again, if you're in court accused of breaking a law, you can't say, well, I should get away with it because other people break the law. No. Are they trying to suggest that I'm defending these Labour MPs and attacking Cummings? Because that's brainless, because I'm not. But I am going to say that Dominic Cummings broke the law in a much more serious way, because the key distinction is he was infected and went out. He was infected and went from London, where there was a very high rate of infection, to Durham, where at the time there was a very low rate of infection. And he went out and about in public as well, on at least 3 occasions that he admitted to. We all know it will have been more than 3 occasions. But there's 3 occasions he admitted to going out in public when he was supposed to be isolating. The government said, oh yeah, he went to Durham, but he isolated once he was there. But he didn't. He himself said yesterday that he went out and about while he was still ill. But then the other side of it, people say, well, should those Labour MPs be sacked? By who? They don't have an employer. You can't be sacked if you don't have an employer. Are they just being deliberate trolls, or do they not understand how things work? People say, oh, Keir Starmer should sack them. Keir Starmer doesn't employ them. They're not paid a penny by Keir Starmer. They're not paid a penny by the Labour. They're not employees of the Labour Party. They're members of the Labour Party. Now, if they'd done anything against party rules, he could kick them out of the Labour Party, but they haven't. And he's not, Keir Starmer isn't like Jeremy Corbyn. He's not going to get rid of people from the Labour Party when they haven't broken any rules, just because he doesn't like them. And he's not going to keep people in the Labour Party when they have broken party rules. But the fact of the matter is, if these Labour MPs have broken the law, it's for the police to deal with it. If they were employees... Now, if Labour employees, in other words, people who worked as political advisors to the Labour Party, say, had broken these lockdown rules, absolutely Keir Starmer should sack them. In fact, Keir Starmer said that in Boris Johnson's position, he would have sacked Dominic Cummings. So absolutely, if Keir Starmer had an employee that broke the lockdown rules in such a way and didn't sack them, absolutely he'd be a hypocrite. But that's not the case. He doesn't employ Labour MPs. MPs are not employed at all. They have a salary. It's weird, but they're not employed at all. The only people who can remove them from their position are their electorate, and they can only do that during a general election. The only time you can ever get rid of an MP early is if they're jailed, or there's one piece of legislation if they breach to do with parliamentary standards that you can also remove them for. But if they haven't done any of that, which they haven't, they're not sackable at all. And they can't be removed from the party. That's not the same as sacking them, but they can't be removed from the party because they haven't broken any party rules either. Now, if the electorate would like to say, well, we don't want to vote for these people next time, so can the Labour Party select a different candidate next time? Absolutely. Local people can absolutely run that campaign and get different people in. I would not argue against that at all. I think an MP has to not only follow the letter of the law, but also the spirit of the law as well in this particular case. And none of those three gentlemen did. They all broke the rules to different extents, but none of them were with the spirit of it, and they weren't providing a good example. And if I were in those local areas, I would definitely say I want a different candidate for next time because these aren't up to it. But there you go. That's some of the tricks that are being used. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.